One of the modern Egyptian historians by the name of Abbas Mahmoud al-Akkad asked a very intriguing question about Umar ibn al-Khattab radiallahu anhu. He said, who would Umar ibn al-Khattab be without Islam? And so he goes on to entertain this question. And he says that maybe he could have grown up to be the leader of his clan, Banu Uday, which was actually a very small clan of Quraysh. Or maybe he could have been one of the prominent leaders of Quraysh. Or if we extend it even further, he might have been the head of Quraysh. But that was actually a very far-fetched assumption because the leaders of Quraysh would have never allowed such a thing to happen. But the most likely scenario, he said, was that Umar ibn Khattab would have died at a young age because he was a drunk before Islam. But with Islam, not only did he become the leader of Quraysh or Arabia, he became the ruler of 2/3 of the world at his time. SubhanAllah. So why am I narrating this story to you? Because it illustrates the ability for Allah Azza wa Jal to change our hearts and our conditions. As believers, we should always be striving to take that next step, that next level with Allah. And we should always be striving to get that next level in Iman. But it begins with the heart. The qalb is called the qalb because it changes. It's qalb, right? So it's something that changes, it turns around. And the Prophet ﷺ said about the qalb and the changing of the heart, that it changes more rapidly than a pot of boiling water. And that's why when we make dua to Allah, Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik, right? And so I want to make it clear to you that this talk is not about the change of the heart that brings a non-Muslim to Islam, but we're actually speaking to each and every person in this room to push ourselves to get out of our comfort zone and take that next step that gets us closer to Allah. Most of us in this room maybe have not been growing up knowing the halal and the haram and the basic fara'id of Islam. So we can actually look back at a point in our lives and say that this is a certain time period where I became more religious, right? So we can say that when I stopped listening to music, when I wore the hijab, for the brothers when they grew their beards, we can pinpoint an exact time in our lives where we became closer and took that step towards getting closer to Allah. But unfortunately, for some reason, we stopped there. That was one of the milestones, and subhanAllah, we never think ahead at future milestones because we've gotten so comfortable with our condition. Our goal and our intention tonight should be to pick one milestone that you know if you reach it with the right intentions will raise your status with Allah. It could be stopping a certain sin that we do consistently, or it could be adding an act of ibadah that we also do consistently in our lives. Umar ibn Khattab obviously didn't become who he was in one night. And we should realize that we should set realistic milestones and take it one step at a time to reach that next level of higher Iman. And I'll give you an example with the example of Musa alayhi salam and how his heart changed in 3 stages. Number 1, when Musa alayhi salam first spoke to Allah Azza wa Jal, it was obvious that this was a very intense time for Musa, who was now speaking directly with Rabbil Alameen. And on top of this, Allah Azza wa Jal asked Musa what's in his right hand. Musa replies that this is his staff that he uses to lean on, to beat down branches for his sheep, and so on. And so Allah Azza wa Jal continues to command Musa to throw down his staff, and it became a serpent moving very quickly. And so now you can imagine how scared Musa alayhi salam is right now. But what did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say to him? He says, قَالَ خُذْهَا وَلَا تَخَافْ. Allah Azza wa Jal told him to grasp it and to fear not, because he's going to return it to its previous state. Now let's fast forward a little bit. Musa alayhi salam is brought in front of Pharaoh, the magicians, and some of the people of Bani Israel. And they're watching as Pharaoh gets the magicians to challenge Musa. Now they throw down their sticks and the ropes, and by magic it began to appear as if they were serpents moving really fast. فَأَوْجَسَ فِي نَفْسِهِ خِيفَةً. So Musa conceived fear in himself. So here we see that Musa he has some elements of fear in him. He wasn't like the beginning where he was completely terrified, but he reached the next level up, where he was outwardly confident, but inwardly he was still somewhat afraid. And so Allah tells him how to overcome this next level. He says, قُلْنَا لَا تَخَفْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْأَعْلَى. Didn't we say don't be afraid? You were going to be the upper hand. You're going to have the upper hand. And so finally we fast forward to the 3rd part of the story in which Musa alayhi salam and Bani Israel are being cornered into the sea. They look left, they look right, and there's nowhere to escape. If they turn back, they're going to be basically killed by the Fir'aun and his army. And if they go forward, it appears as if they're going to be drowned into the sea. And Allah Azza wa Jal narrates to us in the Quran, He said, قَالَ أَصْحَابُ مُوسَى إِنَّا لَمُدْرَكُونَ. The companions of Musa said, we are sure to be overtaken. And now they're complaining to Musa and they're panicking, they don't know what to do. And what does Musa alayhi salam say? He says, قَالَ كَلَّا إِنِّي مَعَيَ رَبِّي سَيَهْدِينِ. Musa says, nay, verily my Rabb is with me and He is going to guide me. SubhanAllah, how he reached this final level of full yaqeen in Allah. And so this is the illustration of somebody moving from stage to stage, getting closer to Allah. And so, inshallah, I hope sincerely that everybody today leaves, number one, making the intention to really figure out what this one thing that they need to reach this new milestone with Allah, to reach this new level of Iman and new ibadah. And again, this could be refraining from a sin that we do consistently, or it could be increasing in our ibadat. Number two, to make dua to Allah to make it easy on us. And number three, to try to be patient, at least during the first few days of this change in routine, because that is the hardest time. And because we're only human, we're going to need support along the way, and it's going to be hard and difficult. But we should try to remember Allah, for Allah Azza wa Jal says in Surah Al-Ra'd, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنُّ الْقُلُوبِ. Verily, in the remembrance of Allah, do the hearts find rest. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to help us in our pursuit to please Him and to come closer to Him. And I ask Allah to make us amongst the company of Umar ibn Khattab and Musa alayhi salam in Jannah.